The evil cracked like thunder and the room forgot how to breathe. Maya Cole said, "It wasn't supposed to end like this," but her voice drowned in the echo. Rain battered the courthouse windows as if trying to force its way in. Ethan Vale said, "Look at me, you're not alone," and his hand hovered, careful, kind. Victoria Slate watched with a stillness that felt like judgment carved in marble. Noah Price said, "We can appeal," while his jaw locked against doubt. A phone vibrated in Maya's pocket, a midnight number flashing noon. Jules' heart said, "Pick up, it's about Lena from somewhere beyond the doors." The judge raised tired eyes, and the room fell into the hush of a new storm. The hallway smelled of wet wool and old varnish, a narrow artery pulsing with whispers. Maya Cole said, "If I answer, I reopen the wound," and the phone kept blinking like a lighthouse with bad news. Ethan Vale said, "Sometimes the truth bleeds less than a lie," and he offered coffee he knew she would not finish. Noah Price said, "We regroup at 6, while checking the exits like a habit he could not kill." Victoria Slate passed with a smile that measured everyone's worth. Jules' heart said, "Lena's not gone the way they told you," and slid a folded page into Maya's hand. The paper felt heavy as bone, and the rain chased them toward the doors. The call returned after dark, when thunder muted the city and courage felt rented. Maya Cole said, "Who is this?" and the line answered with a breath shaped like her sister's name. Ethan Vale said, "Speaker," and leaned closer, eyes soft, ready for a fall. Jules' heart said, "I found something in the old locker on Bridge Street," and a subway rumble crossed the silence. Noah Price said, "Send coordinates," with the steadiness of a man counting risks. Victoria Slate said, "Careful where you chase ghosts." From another line, Maya did not remember answering. The voice said, "Lena waits where the river keeps secrets," and the storm swallowed the dial tone. They reached the locker long after the city forgot its curfew, the river breathing cold steam. Jules' heart said, "It was supposed to be cleared years ago," and she jimmied the dented door with a hairpin. Maya Cole said Lena kept a map and unfolded a water-warped grid that smelled like winter. Ethan Vale said, "Your hands are shaking," and wrapped the map edges before they tore. Noah Price said, "We log everything," while his eyes took inventory of shadows. Victoria Slate said, "Maps redraw memory," from an alley where her heels clicked like metronomes. The lock surrendered with a sigh, and the night leaned in. Inside the locker lay a sealed letter addressed in Lena's looping hand, edges bruised by time. Maya Cole said, "I kept mine sealed for years," and the echo of guilt curled in the rivets. Ethan Vale said, "Open it when you can bear the answer," and he stepped back, as if giving breath space. Jules' heart said, "There's more," and lifted a cassette labeled with the river's name. Noah Price said, "Chain of custody," and slid both into evidence sleeves that crinkled like ice. Victoria Slate said some messages should stay drowned, with a smile thin as thread. The storm eased as if listening for the letter's first tear. Morning light leaked through blinds like reluctant confessions, striping the walls of Maya's kitchen. Maya Cole said, "Every year I return to the river," and her voice cracked with the weight of ritual. Ethan Vale said, "You carry her ghost like armor," while he set down 2 mugs of coffee, one always left unfinished. Jules' heart said, "The letter proves she wanted to be found," eyes sharp with the defiance of youth. Noah Price said, "Evidence is nothing without order," as he slid notes into neat rows. Victoria Slate said, "Order is how the truth is buried," her presence calm, dangerous, composed. The cassette sat between them, humming silence that demanded to be played. The tape hissed before it spoke, like breath stolen from the grave. A girl's voice whispered a tune Lena once hummed, and Maya Cole said that melody she sang it when she was afraid. Ethan Vale said, "It's a breadcrumb," leaning forward, eyes catching every syllable. Jules' heart said, she wanted someone to follow, clutching her sketchbook as if the lines inside were maps. Noah Price said, We need timestamps and matching alibis, scribbling furiously in his ledger. Victoria Slate said, "Melodies can be rewritten," her smile small and cutting, as if rewriting was her profession. The sound bled into silence, and the room dared not move. They drove along the river where fog clung like memory that refused to die. Maya Cole said, "I see her reflection, even when the water is still," her hand pressed to the glass. Ethan Vale said, "You survived for a reason," eyes steady on the road, voice threaded with quiet strength. Jules Hart said, "Sometimes survivors aren't meant to live, they're meant to finish," sketching rivers and faces in quick strokes. Noah Price said, "We'll find where the timelines break," as he scanned the GPS with soldier's precision. Victoria Slate said, "The river swallows as much as it reveals," her tone smooth as stone. The fog thinned, and a rusted pier appeared like an accusation. The pier groaned under their steps, wood swollen by years of storms. Maya Cole said, "She loved this place," said, "The river kept secrets," voice trembling against the wind. Ethan Vale said, "Secrets only stay hidden if someone guards them," and his eyes darted to Victoria. Jules Hart said, "There's something carved here, tracing letters with fingertips on the wood." Noah Price said, "Photograph it before we disturb it," pulling out a small camera with steady precision. Victoria Slate said, "Some carvings are just scratches," though her gaze lingered too long on the grooves. The tide surged, swallowing their words in salt and silence. At the diner across the highway, steam curled from chipped mugs while silence stretched like barbed wire. Maya Cole said, "She carved my initials, not hers," as her hand shook around coffee she wouldn't drink. Ethan Vale said, "It's a message meant only for you," speaking low enough to anchor her storm. Jules Hart said, "That's proof she was planning something," scribbling symbols across a napkin. Noah Price said, "Or proof she knew the end was coming," his voice iron flat, protective of procedure. Victoria Slate said, "Or proof she wanted you to doubt," smiling faintly as if weaving truth was her art. Outside, the neon flickered like a pulse refusing to fade. The evidence board glared under fluorescent light, threads of red string stretched like veins between faces. Maya Cole said, "She was never meant to vanish, she was meant to be erased," her hand trembling on a photograph. Ethan Vale said, "Every line here bleeds to one name," his voice carrying quiet certainty. Jules Hart said, "I traced this symbol before. It's not random," flipping through sketches with sharp urgency. Noah Price said, "Keep speculation out until we have corroboration," though his eyes betrayed unease. Victoria Slate said, "Symbols are stories, and stories bend to power," her calmness carving suspicion deeper. The board pulsed with accusation, but the truth stayed hidden. The locker's cassette played again, but this time with distortions, voices layered, truth smothered in echoes. Maya Cole said, "Listen to the pauses, not the words," leaning in close to static. Ethan Vale said, "She left silence as a code, tapping rhythm with his pen." Jules Hart said, "It matches the map markings," scribbling furiously across the diner napkin. Noah Price said, "This is circumstantial," though his hand never stopped recording every beat. Victoria Slate said, "Codes are made to be broken or planted," her voice low, a warning disguised as wisdom. The static swallowed them, carrying pieces of Lena across invisible wires. At the archive, dust clouded like ghosts rising from forgotten files. Maya Cole said she requested these records the year she disappeared, her gloved hand pulling folders marked confidential. Ethan Vale said, "That's a trail she wanted you to finish," his voice grounding her trembling resolve. Jules Hart said, "This signature's forged," pointing at faint ink strokes. Only she noticed. Noah Price said, "Chain of custody is broken here," jaw locked as he flipped through receipts. Victoria Slate said, "Broken chains invite imagination," her words soft yet sharp, lingering like a knife's edge. Papers rustled like whispers, each sheet heavier than the last. Night bled into the motel, neon flickering like a broken heartbeat. Maya Cole said, "Every door looks like the one I escaped," gripping the handle before entering. Ethan Vale said, "You're safe with me here," his voice steady, but his eyes scanning shadows. Jules' heart said, the walls hum, pressing her ear against faded wallpaper as if it carried stories. Noah Price said, "We'll set watches," his tone military, arranging chairs like barricades. Victoria Slate said, "Fear builds prisons faster than steel," reclining gracefully in the corner, too calm for the storm. The hum of neon seeped into their silence, binding them to the night. The storm broke with a crash against the motel glass, rain streaking like 1,000 timelines. Maya Cole said, "She's leading us into the dark," gripping Lena's letter. Ethan Vale said, "Then we follow where the dark takes us," voice low, steady, a promise more than logic. Jules' heart said, "The cassette has coordinates in the static," her pencil tracing invisible lines across a page. Noah Price said, "We're chasing shadows without proof," though he kept his pen moving regardless. Victoria Slate said, "Shadows have masters," her smile glinting in the half-light. Lightning tore across the sky, framing them in fleeting truth. The courthouse basement smelled of mildew and secrets, shadows stretching longer than walls allowed. Maya Cole said, she filed a complaint, but it was buried here, her hand hovering over dusty boxes. Ethan Vale said, "They wanted it lost forever," his jaw set like stone. Jules' heart said, "This handwriting matches her letters," tracing a faded signature with trembling fingers. Noah Price said, "These are sealed records. Accessing them puts us under fire," his voice steady but anxious. Victoria Slate said, "Some fires cleanse, others consume," her expression unreadable. The box creaked open, unleashing truths meant to stay chained. The file revealed Lena's testimony against a man with power stitched into every institution. Maya Cole said, "She named him, and they erased it," her breath sharp as a blade. Ethan Vale said, "Now the board connects, dragging red string through memory." Jules' heart said, "It's the same emblem carved into the pier," her sketch overlaying the page. Noah Price said, "This can collapse careers, maybe lives," his voice caught between duty and dread. Victoria Slate said, "Or rewrite legacies," her tone smooth as glass. The silence in the basement thickened until the walls seemed to listen. In the parking garage, echoing footsteps doubled their tension. Maya Cole said, "Someone doesn't want this found," clutching Lena's file. Ethan Vale said, "Stay close," his eyes scanning every shadow. Jules' heart said, "That car's been idling since we got here," pointing at headlights smothered by mist. Noah Price said, "We can't confront without backup," lowering his voice like a soldier before ambush. Victoria Slate said, "Sometimes silence is the loudest warning," her poise unnatural in the gloom. The engine revved once, then cut, leaving only the echo of their breaths. The motel room door cracked open on its own, hinges groaning like warnings. Maya Cole said, "We locked it," her voice breaking. Ethan Vale said, "Someone's been inside," scanning overturned drawers. Jules' heart said, "My sketches are gone," fury flashing behind her eyes. Noah Price said, "This is a message. They want us unsettled," placing the cassette back into his bag. Victoria Slate said, "Or they want you to think you're still in control," her calmness cutting deeper than fear. A draft carried the smell of the river inside, as if the water itself followed them. The riverbank waited in silence, moonlight silvering the surface as if daring them to step closer. Maya Cole said, "This is where she left us the last time," clutching Lena's letter. Ethan Vale said, "Then, this is where we find her truth," standing at her side, steady. Jules' heart said, "There's fresh carvings," running her fingers across damp wood. Noah Price said, "No footprints, no trace. Someone cleaned this place," suspicion lacing his tone. Victoria Slate said, "Not everything meant to be found is left behind," her eyes fixed on the current. The water whispered, carrying secrets it refused to drown. The courtroom returned like a wound reopening, lights glaring hotter than memory. Maya Cole said, this time her voice will be heard, gripping Lena's letter like a lifeline. Ethan Vale said, stay steady, they want to break you before you speak, his tone calm yet sharp. Jules Hart said, I'll testify what I saw in the files, her teenage defiance unshaken. Noah Price said, testimony without evidence is a blade without edge, though his eyes softened with loyalty. Victoria Slate said, evidence is only as sharp as the hand that wields it, her poise glimmering with concealed threat. The judge's gavel rose and silence crashed into the room. The cassette played through speakers, static hissing across polished walls. Maya Cole said, that's Lena's voice, and her throat clenched against tears. Ethan Vale said, her words are anchors, don't let them twist them, his gaze fixed on the jury. Jules Hart said, she's guiding us through code, sketching symbols on legal paper even here. Noah Price said, chain of evidence verified, presenting a logbook with steady hands. Victoria Slate said, or doctored in transit, her voice slicing through the tension. The jury leaned forward, every breath caught in the pull of a ghost. The cross-examination carved at the truth with precision. Maya Cole said, I've lived this silence for years, her voice shaking but unbroken. Ethan Vale said, objection, relevance, pounding back against manipulation. Jules Hart said, she wrote the same symbol in her journals, lifting sketches as proof. Noah Price said those journals were logged, catalogued and verified, his voice heavy with authority. Victoria Slate said, or staged to frame what you want to believe, her composure unshaken, eyes piercing the jury. The judge's gavel struck again, but the room's silence was louder than sound. The storm outside mirrored the storm within, thunder vibrating the courthouse glass. Maya Cole said, if truth dies here, Lena dies twice, her fist tightening around the letter. Ethan Vale said, don't let them break your voice, his tone grounding her resolve. Jules Hart said, they can't erase what I saw carved into the pier, defiant against the silence. Noah Price said, the record stands clear enough for conviction, his voice rigid, almost trembling. Victoria Slate said, convictions are puppets pulled by stronger strings, her smile cold as winter. Lightning flashed, exposing every hidden scar in the room. The verdict loomed unspoken, the weight of truth straining the air. Maya Cole said, this is the moment she lives or dies again, her whisper breaking the stillness. Ethan Vale said, we've carried her voice this far, it won't fade now, his eyes unyielding. Jules Hart said, her symbols lead us to justice, clutching her sketchbook as if it were a shield. Noah Price, said the jury, has enough, justice must answer tonight, his certainty almost prayerful. Victoria Slate said, justice bends to those who wield it best, her voice dripping with finality. The gavel rose, ready to carve the world in two. The verdict fell like a stone into water, ripples swallowing every breath. Maya Cole said, she finally speaks through me, though her voice wavered on the edge of relief and fear. Ethan Vale said, justice isn't clean, but it's still justice, his tone carrying both pride and warning. Jules Hart said, it doesn't end here, the river still hides her, eyes fierce with unspent fire. Noah Price said, the ruling holds, but enemies don't vanish, his voice tempered with scars of experience. Victoria Slate said, you think you've won, but this verdict is just the beginning, her smile curving like a blade. The gavel dropped, splitting hope from dread. The courthouse steps bristled with flashing cameras, questions hurled like stones. Maya Cole said, her name is Lena Cole, and she will not be forgotten, her voice raw but unbroken. Ethan Vale said no comment beyond the record, shielding her shoulder from the crush of press. Jules Hart said, the truth was carved into the wood, and no storm can erase it, her words sharp against the noise. Noah Price said, we're not giving details until the chain is secured, his command holding steady. Victoria's slate said truth in headlines dies quicker than truth in silence, her remark slipping like poison through the crowd. Flashbulbs lit them like fragments of fire. Later that night, the diner lights hummed, their glow weak against the storm's memory. Maya Cole said, the verdict feels hollow without her here, staring at coffee gone cold. Ethan Vale said, she lives in the fact they tried to silence her and failed, his voice steady, almost tender. Jules Hart said, her letters point further. She wasn't finished, eyes locked on her notebook sketches. Noah Price said sometimes resolution is just a door to deeper war. His tone resigned but alert. Victoria Slate said wars build empires when fought with grief, her calmness unsettling as ever. The rain tapped against glass, steady as a clock counting down. At the riverbank, the night wind gnawed at their coats, the water whispering secrets it refused to bury. Maya Cole said, she called me back here every year, and now I finally hear why, her hand resting on the railing. Ethan Vale said, the river is a ledger, it holds debts unpaid, voice firm against the cold. Jules Hart said, look, more carvings, fresh ones, tracing grooves with frantic certainty. Noah Price said, this proves the case isn't closed, someone else keeps writing, his jaw tightening with anger. Victoria Slate said every ledger needs a keeper, her eyes catching the moon with quiet menace. The current swirled like an unspoken name. The motel room silence pressed heavier than thunder, the cassette playing once more, voice frayed but resolute. Maya Cole said, she wanted me to carry her unfinished truth, tears catching her voice. Ethan Vale said, then we finish it, no matter the cost, his tone unyielding. Jules Hart said, she left clues for someone who would listen, eyes blazing with certainty. Noah Price said, this fight's not bound to courts. It's bound to shadows, his voice low, eyes hard. Victoria Slate said, and shadows belong to me, her words final, like a verdict no gavel could touch. The tape clicked off, leaving only breath and the storm waiting outside. The courthouse emptied into silence, echoes fading like ghosts retreating into stone. Maya Cole said, I carried her voice into daylight, her whisper trembling with both pride and grief. Ethan Vale said, daylight doesn't end the night, his gaze watching shadows stretch across marble. Jules Hart said, the carvings mean there's more hidden, her sketchbook already open, pencil restless. Noah Price said this case is finished on paper, but not in truth, his jaw set with weary defiance. Victoria Slate said truth is always unfinished. Power decides the final line, her voice cold, steady. The lingering echo of Lena's name hung heavier than stone. On the riverbank, mist curled like hands reaching from the water. Maya Cole said, she calls me still. I can hear her voice soft, broken. Ethan Vale said, you've given her justice, yet doubt flickered in his eyes. Jules Hart said, justice doesn't mean peace, not when secrets keep breathing, her pencil pressing harder. Noah Price said, if we keep digging, we'll pay a price none of us can afford, his tone warning. Victoria Slate said, prices are always paid, whether by you or someone else, her words as steady as the current. The water reflected the moon, like an unblinking eye. The diner was near empty, neon buzzing like a failing heartbeat. Maya Cole said, every answer births another question, stirring untouched coffee. Ethan Vale said, then maybe the point was never answers, but endurance, his hand resting briefly over hers. Jules Hart said, I won't stop, her story deserves every truth, her eyes fierce as fire. Noah Price said, I'll stand guard, but I've seen how pursuit destroys, voice edged with warning. Victoria Slate said, destruction is simply another form of creation, her tone soft but cruel. Outside, neon bled across rain-slick glass, painting them in colors of unease. In the archive silence, files towered like graves waiting for mourners. Maya Cole said, Her handwriting will haunt me forever, brushing faded ink with trembling fingers. Ethan Vale said, haunting means she still lives in you, his voice soft, steady. Jules' heart said, these records were altered, someone's fingerprints all over them, fury sparking in her tone. Noah Price said, careful, chasing this further means war, his voice heavy with warning. Victoria Slate said, wars are written by those who decide which ghosts deserve names, her calmness chilling. Dust motes swirled in the thin light, like fragments of memory refusing to rest. The river at dawn was quiet, the mist burning away into pale gold. Maya Cole said, she waits where silence ends, her words trembling with both hope and dread. Ethan Vale said, then we keep walking until silence breaks, his voice calm, certain. Jules' heart said, I'll carry her story when you can't, eyes blazing with promise. Noah Price said, we'll protect her truth, even if it kills us, his voice hard but loyal. Victoria Slate said, truth is never found, only chosen, her final words curling into the mist. The river answered with silence, and silence was enough to haunt forever.